Awesome. Awesome. So thank you for coming today on Focus on Moving Forward. I wanted to start off with a little story that I woke up one morning in 1992. 92, I know I'm dating myself. Approximately 6 months after I got married for the first time, and felt overwhelmed, scared, questioning and asking myself why and how I ended up in a circumstance that I was living in at that particular time. So I thought to myself, for better or for worse, that's what I recited, right? That was my vows. But was for worse supposed to be like this? I proceeded to live in my life in a vacuum, feeling numb, in a daily routine that it was just a process. I was just going through the motions. Too many circumstances to mention here today of why I was living like that. But it was about that 16 years later, I finally got my answer and I decided to leave. 16 years I lived in that vacuum. I lived in that numb state. I lived every day with the circumstances weighing over me until finally I woke up and said, this is enough. And that's when I broke free. I broke free when my inner peace and my inner joy and my inner faith is what was the power that helped me break free. So now when we sit here in 2020, and hasn't it been filled with so many moments, so much circumstances, then I'm sure that you asked yourself, why is this happening? And how will I survive? Are you living in a vacuum or in a numb state? I know that I found myself this year kind of going back to how I was feeling for those 16 years back when it started in 92. And what helped me move forward was asking those questions of myself. So before we dive in today, and we're going to dive in deep today and have open conversation, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being here. Thank you for putting yourself first, especially now. Thank you for coming on Zoom when I'm sure many of us spend most of our day on Zoom conferences these days, right? So thank you for coming on Zoom. Thank you for wanting to understand how to find the joy no matter what circumstances we have going on. So right now, I want you to take a moment and write down one word that describes yourself at this particular moment. Just one word. And I'm going to ask you to write that word in the middle of a piece of paper and circle it and hold it up for me. Let's just figure out where we are at this particular moment in time before we focus on moving forward. So whoever wants to hold up, that would be dynamite. Okay. One word. Okay. So what are the words that we're feeling? We have open-minded. Love that. Focus. Focused. Great. Great words. Love that. Love it. So power words are so important to me. And if many of you follow me, you understand that I pick a power word every single week to anchor what it is that I want to move forward. So in this time, I want you to embrace that word. I invite you to embrace that word and hold it dear to see what we need to do to help you continue to live in that word. Okay? So let's get going here. So a few months ago, I sent out a survey to see what you were all thinking and feeling, to see if maybe I was living in a vacuum. Like I said, maybe I was living in this world by myself, feeling overwhelmed. But the more I worked with my clients, the more I had conversations, I understood that this was bubbling up for most of us. So when I got the results back from the survey, I was not surprised by what came back. And that's what prompted me to put this together today. So I received 63 responses, and I was thrilled about that because my goal was to get 50. Okay. So I was so excited when 63 came in. Out of those responses, I want to share those results with you. 24 of them said, I'm so done with the pandemic, right? I want to focus on how to keep moving forward. 24 out of 63. 18 of you said, I want to set and hold clear boundaries so I have more time for myself. 13, I want to understand my new normal because life is different now. 5, I'm scared of the uncertainty. I need some clarity around what was going on. And 3, I am overwhelmed. Things are chaotic and I want to feel in control. Those results weren't surprising to me. They were really set a ground for me to think of, okay, these are areas that I actually felt back in 1992. So shifting the circumstances to now, it just dawned on me that there's such amazing resources to help us feel in control in a time that is totally out of control. Okay. So that's why I created this sacred space here for you today. So we could come together today, focus on how, answer questions you may have about where you are right now. Okay. So as we go through this, I want you to just take this down. Joy is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's a necessity. But how do we find joy and hold on to it? Right? When so much in our life stands in the way, there's so many things, right? Especially in this year. I think for the first time, we have all experienced how it is when life changes in a blink of an eye, right? So think about that. I think this is the first time in our lifetime that we've experienced something all together at the same time. That's amazing. So as we come all together and we're experiencing this together, let's help ourselves and each other find the joy. It doesn't matter who you believe in politically or right or if you wear a mask or don't you wear a mask. It doesn't matter about that. What really matters is us coming together and finding that joy and holding us there. Okay. So do you want those feelings that we're feeling now, or if you're feeling now, to spill over into 2021? Do we want that to happen? Now, some of it is interesting because there's some beautiful benefits that came out of 2021 or 2020, right? Some beautiful benefits. And I'd love to start some conversation around what are those special moments. Let's start with the gifts, the new habits that came out of 2020. This is where the resilience and the surrendering and creating comes in. That's where this all comes in, those 3 things. When we think in those three terms, it helps us to see the path to joy. What are we being resilient around, and how are we doing that? What do we need to surrender? What do we need to surrender? And how are we going to create the path to bring us to joy? So, question for you, is there something that is holding you back from living in joy? Okay. So right now, I would love to open up and be here to answer any kind of questions that you have around that might be holding you back, or whatever's on your mind. This is a sacred space for conversation. Okay. So I'm embracing all of you that you came here today, and I'm so excited to start having some conversation with you. So, is there anything out of those three areas of resilience, surrendering, and creating anything, creating boundaries, creating happiness, creating declutter space, because we're all working from home now, right? And now our areas are multitask areas. If you have anything, raise your hand and let's start the conversation. Does everyone know how to raise their hand on? You could physically raise your hand too. Let's see. I can't see everyone on my screen at the same time. Okay. So when I started having conversations, some of the things that came up was all about, how do I set boundaries between when I start my day and when I end my day? Does anybody have that? I know for me, working from home, it's very easily to bubble into, right? Waking up in the morning, to going into, to get my coffee, to going into my office, to turn on my computer and still be in my bathrobe. No. So we need to, even though I might not be on camera at that particular time, right? Does anybody have that feeling that they have sometimes? Denise is shaking her head. Yes. Yes, she does have that feeling. So that's what I'm talking about, is how do we find the joy? So with resilience is part of our strength that comes from within us when we are put into a difficult situation, right? Resilience is when, if we look closely at it, really shines upon our superpower that we may have. Now, my superpower is I don't give up. So I am tenacious. I am, I wouldn't say confident isn't a word for me, right? But maybe that's where my resilience comes from maybe not being as confident, but continuously breaking through to find what it is that I need to keep me moving forward, especially in these times. Resilience came from having to be in Florida at the beginning of November, making a trip down there, spending time there, having to surrender the control over my calendar and the space that I was in, because I needed to be there and create a nice, safe space for my family as we were going through losing my mother-in-law. So what was the joy that came out of that? The joy that came out of that for me was finding the ability to be able to rely on people on my dream team to take over the business while I had to step away from it. So all of these pieces helps us understand what it is that we need in order to live in that joy. But in order to do that, we have to define what joy is to us. Does anybody have a thought of what joy means to them? You could unmute, or Maureen, you want to share?
Yeah. My joys come from my surrender. And COVID has really been a blessing because I was like you, extremely busy, not really doing what I wanted, but not really what the Lord wanted me to do. And I've taken the time these few months to really take time to contemplate and to figure out, okay, what is it that I need to give up? Because I didn't want to give up anything. I
Mhm.
wanted what I wanted, but I had done a retreat. I wound up leading it on surrender, and I have talked to my spiritual director who talks about surrendering. She did a retreat many years ago, and it's really helped me tremendously. And my joy is constant, no matter what's been happening. And we've had a lot of ups and downs in these last few months, but the joy there is constant. It's a peaceful feeling, and I am so grateful for that. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Oh, no, that's beautiful, Maureen. Thank you for sharing. It's awesome. So your joy came from the ability of awareness of to know what you needed to surrender
Mhm,
of the noise that
mhm.
goes on around us, right? That noise of busyness that just takes over from us. And I love that. That's exactly what it is awareness of what it is that you need to do. And your resilience comes from stepping out,
Yeah.
right? And acknowledging, yes, this is what I need for joy. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have a way that they're finding joy right now, or they might be in a place where they want to get to joy, but there might be some roadblocks? That's what this is. This is like, ladies, this is like if we were sitting at lunch and we're all sitting around a table at a restaurant and we're just chatting. Okay. That's what I really want. What I would love to have, being selfish, telling you what I would love to have here, right? Is us just to come together. So and help and share and support the growth that we may need right now. So, Maureen, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have something that they feel helps them find joy or might be stuck in finding the joy? Denise.
So every Wednesday night, I have to be in a class for 2 hours, and I try to get off technology at 6 o'clock or earlier because I won't sleep if I'm not. So sitting in a class on Zoom for 2 hours every Wednesday night. But what I did last night, I made cards, like greeting cards from old greeting cards while I was listening to this. So I didn't have to stare at the screen and just stare at another Zoom room. And so I was still able to listen. I was able to make a gift for my mother-in-law because she needs new cards to send to all of her kids and grandkids. So that was like, okay, like, and then I slept really well last night. So it's, it's the boundaries that you were talking about. And it's like, okay, I can do this. I can still be present for this class, but not stare at a screen. So that was just finding like something else that was a self-care thing that brought me a little bit of joy in this time. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's what it is looking at what used to be normal, because a lot of times we'll say, well, I used to do this or it used to be this way. And then we get a little apprehensive because it's not normal, but the awareness, it's not normal of what we're used to, but was that normal where we really should have been, right? So now, Denise, you might not have done that if you're not on Zoom meetings all the time, right? Like that might not have been something that came up for you in the past if we didn't go through these circumstances right now. So that's beautiful. The other day, I was talking with a woman who is a military spouse, right? And we had this beautiful conversation, and it just was fascinating. Everything that she was telling me about her life, and that her and her husband have moved 7 times in 10 years, and they have 3 adopted children. of color and from a really strong situation. So there's a lot of circumstances that they're dealing with, right? And I asked her what I asked you guys. What is the one word that describes the way you feel right now? And it was just so beautiful when I heard this one word. Now her husband's active duty too. So they're active duty. She's raising 3 kids. She's got a successful career. You know, like there's all this stuff going on. And the one word that described how she felt right now was contentment. And I just thought that was so beautiful, contentment. And I went on to ask her, why? Why do you feel that you're content right now? If anybody else heard your story, they would be like, oh my goodness, you poor thing, you're dealing with all of this stuff, right? And she's like, no, I feel truly blessed from where we are. I'm blessed that I have 3 children. I'm blessed that my husband's able to serve our country. I'm blessed that I'm able to support my husband to serve our country. So it was all again about the mindset shift that was happening with the word that she chose to live by every single day. So contentment. She really, I've talked about her several times since I had that conversation because she really moved me through the power of that. Carrie, I'm going to lower your hand.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me because I can't see me.
I can see you.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that I have been working lately on trying to infuse more joy into my life and being more conscious about doing it. And I have been coming up with like service ideas that we could do, that I can do with the kids for the Christmas season, things, you know, to do for other people, some creativity, artistic things for my life, self-care, that kind of stuff. But what keeps coming up for me and like all the like spiritual books that I read, you know how like you can read a book and then come back again and you hear it differently or you hear a different message, but like every single one I'm reading now is talking about having that connection to your inner being be the strongest thing, you're to God, you know, and that's where joy will just, you'll have this source of joy within you that just bubbles up always, no matter what's going on around you. And I know that that's the thing. I think the universe is trying to tell me that because that is the message that keeps coming to me whenever I go to look for something in a book, you know, on a YouTube video, but also I feel it in me. Like that's something that I need to work into my, again, like action steps daily, like being better about my habits, meditating, prayer, that kind of thing too. So that's what I'm working on.
No, that's beautiful. Now, did you feel that strength before this year, or do you feel like it's drawn you even closer to him and the plan of joy and contentment in your heart?
So I feel like I was more solid in that connection before I got married and had kids. And I have felt sort of like scattered, like I've lost me a little bit and like that connection as well. So because of 2020 and this great pause, I feel like it's given me time to sort of like quiet again, sort of go quiet and still and tend to my own needs. So yeah, for me, it's been a gift.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That's wonderful because more and more I hear is how much lately, more so, is how much 2020 has been a gift because it's still, we thought it was going to be over once we were released here in Connecticut, at least in June, right? We thought, okay, we're good, we're going back. And then all of a sudden, things were still not the same that we always had in the past. So my daily habits of truly finding what is going to be joyful for me. I'm going to share something with you guys too. what's going to be joyful for me is so important that when I wake up in the morning, I have my word that will anchor me throughout that day. So if things get a little out of control, or I don't know, I get a message that there's been a case in our school and they're closing 6th, 7th, and 8th grade down, and all of a sudden my daughter's at home full time. We've been blessed to not have to deal with that this season, but now she's home full time until December 10th, supposedly. You know, what is the joy behind that? The joy behind that I see is that she gets to be home and still learn, but we still get to be together as a family. And because it works, because we have set boundaries. We have set boundaries of our space and our time. Okay? Setting the boundaries of our space and time is not selfish. That is really, really important. She knows that, okay, mom's in her office and the door's closed. This is the space and time. I know when her door is closed, it means she's on her Zoom classroom. So the sense of respect really, really matters. Okay. So anybody else want to share something that they found has been moving or may have held you back because of the difference that we've had going on, or a funny story that you might, let's see. No, I'm not. I just can't find it right now.
I'm yelling at Pam in chat.
She's yelling at me. Denise is my back end. She controls all of this for me, and she's telling me something, and I'm ignoring her because I can't find what she wants me to do. So
there's a bar somewhere around there.
Yeah, I know there is.
Right.
There's a bar, you know, so oh, there it is. I just moved the pictures. So it's funny too, oh, here we are. She wanted me
You
to
can
stop.
go to gallery view so you can see everybody, or you can stay on speaker view so you just see one person.
Yeah, I could see everybody now, I think. Hold on. I can. Beautiful. Yay. Yay. So it's so interesting. Zoom, how many are comfortable with Zoom at this particular point? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Were you comfortable in the beginning with Zoom? No.
Yes.
Denise, you're a tech person. You're comfortable with it. Well, in the beginning, it was like the background had to be like, there was just so many different things to maneuver during the circumstances. I did a talk once. I spoke for like 20 minutes and I never shared my screen. So I'm talking about these slides and people are like, oh yeah. And meanwhile, there's nothing, they're not seeing anything, right? So it just is getting used to the way things are. So as we go back with our morning routines and our awareness, I want to share this tip with you. And of course I wrote it down so I could share it with you. And now I just have to find it. So it's really, really, it's an awesome way of, it's called CPR. Okay. And C meaning connect, P meaning perseverance, and R meaning recovery. Okay. With this CPR technique, it's like you wake up in the morning and you connect with who you want to be. Okay. I use this in the morning and in the evening, some sort of this every day. Okay. So in the morning I wake up and I say, okay, who do I want to connect with? Who do I want to be today? Okay. And I connect with God who guides me. But then I connect with the humans in my life, right? Communicating with them what the day is going to be like. A lot of times we don't communicate where we want to be. And then we're like, I wonder why they're not responding, right? Well, they're not responding because we're not giving them a clear direction. So C is connection. P is the perseverance. What are the things that we're going to go through today that might stall us from moving forward, right? Trying to identify them. If there's nothing off the top of our head, just keep that perseverance word in our head, in our mind. So as we move forward and we might hit a road bump, that hesitation sometimes stalls the momentum from us moving forward. If we know how we're going to persevere, it helps us move forward, okay? And then R is all about recovery. How are we going to recover from this? What do we want to end up feeling when we do this at the end of the day? How do we want to be? These little techniques doesn't take a long time. It could be a 2 minutes before we wake up in the morning, when we open our eyes and we're laying in bed. Go ahead and run this through. And at the end of the CPR for yourself, because remember, we're going to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. You've heard that technique, right? Put that oxygen mask on first. That gives us that CPR to help us be stronger throughout the day. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Maureen.
I'd like to share something else about that surrender and joy. I don't know how many of you know about Matthew Kelly, but I met him in 2000 at my father's house in Moodus, and he had just written a book called A Call to Joy. And that book changed my life. And I've been a counselor for many years, and I was retiring. And I have an inability, I don't call it a disability, where I can't walk like I could before. But the Lord has called me back because of this time of contemplation during COVID. He's called me back to take that joy that I have and share it and help others to have that joy. So each day I have a list. I was a teacher for many years, so I had a plan every day, and I check off the things I do. But the difference, I don't worry that I didn't get everything accomplished, because there are many things, as you said, Pam, that get in our way sometimes. And I found myself being more open. And I've every single day, either I get calls or I'll call somebody who I know is struggling and just share with them or listen to them. And it's amazing because there's so many people who are so afraid or bored, one or the other, because they're home, they asked me, how come I'm not? I said, because the Lord has given me so much to do, to share by just being there for other people. And I think that's kind of one of the things that we need to do. You talked about your families. My family is all grown now, and we have to find a way. And the one way we can do it is by contemplating and let go of who we think we should be, rather than who the Lord thinks we should be. Another book that he wrote we did a book group on that is called Perfectly Yourself. And he's got a new one out that's kind of similar to that, about being who God created you to be, not who you want to be or think you should be, or somebody else thinks you should be. So just spreading that joy around. It's amazing how many people I've seen who've changed their attitude about what's going on in this messy world right now.
Oh, absolutely, Maureen, absolutely. And that word joy seems to be popping up in a lot of places lately. I mean, I'm part of a 30-day Advent program, and it's called Unshakable Joy, right? Like, so that popped up. The other day I was at Dunkin' Donuts, and I drove up, and the person said to me, she used these words. She goes, the person behind or in front of you joyfully paid for your order. So then I was like, oh, how beautiful is that? So I was like, well, I'll go ahead and spread the joy and pay the person behind. Now, the person behind me had a $17 bill. The one line was a little, so spreading the joy, right? But putting that aside was like, my 14-year-old daughter was in the car with me, and that spread joy to her. Mom, that was so nice, right? So there's all these little pieces that we could really do daily to really think about how joyful we are. Like when I was in that quarantine for 2 weeks in the house and I was let out on Saturday, there was a part of me that was so content from being at home that I didn't know if I wanted to go out, right? And that's hard. That's unusual for me because I'm a very outgoing extrovert type of personality. So that was for me to take pause and understand why I felt so content and joy right now. And I really believe it was safety. I felt really safe where I was. I wasn't fearful. I felt safe. Right? The difference between being fearful and being safe. Does anybody else have anything they want to share or any questions for me?
I love what Maureen said about getting rid of that list, right? So I'm a teacher and I own my own tutoring business, and I have a list every day of things that I want to do, and I'm not defined by my lists. And it really spoke to me. I wrote down those books. So I think I'm going to get those, but thinking about that you're not tied to that list and you're not a to-do list and your joy is not tied to a to-do list, and your joy is not tied to, like you said, what other people think of you or what other people think you should be doing. So
yeah, it's really beautiful. And it is like in our in this community that I have called Take Back My Life community, right? In there the other day, one of the members shared with us how she would get really overwhelmed and it wouldn't bring her any joy to do the dishes, right? Because she had to scrub the dishes. And the person she was speaking with about it said, run it so you don't have to spend time scrubbing, load the dishwasher and run it twice, right? Like it's okay. And giving ourselves that permission that it's okay to run the dishwasher twice. Just because we're told we are supposed to do it one way doesn't mean that we have to do it that way, right? So when she got that permission, it released such a heavy load off of her because she was identifying herself with cleaning these dishes, right? Like that's a household chore she has to get done. And it seemed like a chore. So here's this chore that I have to do, and I'm not feeling accomplished because I have to do all these extra steps to get it done. And it was as simple as just run it twice. Right? So think about what are those times in our lives that we follow this path because we're told that that's the way this path should be. What are those times? And what can we do to maybe run our dishwasher twice to get over it? There's many times I run my wash machine and I throw 2 tabs in it, right? The instruction says 1. I throw 2 tabs because it's a soiled load, right? And it doesn't affect anything. It just makes it easier to move forward in that process. So yeah, thinking of those times that could be as simple as that. As simple as running your dishwasher twice. I just thought that was fascinating, right? Like that's such a simple, and I love that sharing. So if there's anything else anybody wants to share, I would love to hear more about what you're thinking and how you're feeling right now.
Maureen, I've seen Matthew Kelly quite a few times, like 3 or 4 times. It's been years, but I really like him too. Diane, I don't have the Joy book, but I have a lot of the others, and I'll send them up to you because I'm kind of getting rid of things, and I have a lot of his other books, so I'm happy to send them to you.
thank you.
Sure.
Oh, that's sweet. Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
even finding like in, now that my husband's home full time, like things are different. Like I have my routine at lunch and he has his meetings at 11:30. So I can't do my routine because I have to be quieter because they have a check-in meeting every day at 11:30. It's little things like that. You have to like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not gonna let this, because I'm out of my routine. I'm not gonna let it jolt my joy. So
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I was feeling when I was in Florida, when I kept on asking, so when are we leaving? When are we coming home? Where are we going next? Because I had a calendar full of clients that I had to work with, and I didn't want to leave them at the last minute,
Mhm.
and the surrendering of the control that I
Mhm.
thought that I
Mhm.
had, or the control that I thought I needed in that situation, was really, it kept me up. It really got me a little shaky. But once I said, this is nothing about this is about me or my calendar. Nothing about this time out here is about that. It's about being with the family, helping my husband through a very difficult time of losing his mom, and the selfishness of me wanting to control my calendar, that wasn't bringing anybody joy.
Mm.
So when I surrendered and said, you know what, I understand that this is not what I need. And when I went out and relied on other people to do something that I always did, to release the control around that, oh my, what a feeling it was. And it wasn't, oh, look at that, they could do the same thing I do, or they actually did it better. No, it was not. It was shared joy when I left that control behind. Sheer joy. So, yeah, finding those moments, jotting them down so you could reflect on them.
Mhm.
So when it gets noisy again, I could read it again and remind myself of what it felt like when I did surrender around that and allowed the moment to come in, allow what moment was supposed to be there for us as a family, was beautiful. So yeah, I'm just so grateful for everyone being here today and taking the time out and joining me. And if there's anything else anybody wants to share, um, please do. We're here. Um, we could wrap up early, or we could, because there was really no ended time on this, because it truly was grab lunch or whatever and come and hang out with us. That's what this was about today. um, I really appreciate everybody being here and participating in the way that you feel comfortable. That's the most thing. Okay. That's
I'll just share one more thing, Pam.
yeah.
I was thinking about when the word surrender, and I've worked on it for quite a while. It wasn't an easy thing for me to do. But the more I've surrendered and surrender each day things, it my life is so much peaceful. I mean, because I didn't realize how many of us, myself included, especially being women, I think more than anything, feel like we have to be in control. We have to, especially if you're a wife and a mother or a grandmother, we have to do these things. We don't have to. And if we really take the time to contemplate, sit quietly maybe for a little while, that's my change in prayer, is sitting and just say, okay, Lord, what is it that you want of me today? Help me to hear you. Because when I was so busy, I didn't hear. And the surrender has been so wonderful that I am so full of joy, even with, as I said, with everything going on. So surrender is a big, big thing to be able to do, but it isn't easy.
It's not easy, because that's the human side of us that
Yeah.
comes out. That's the human side, right? And sitting in silence was the biggest gift that I was ever
Yeah.
received, was the ability to sit in silence and to give my mind and my brain permission that it is a muscle, so it is always working. So that to-do list will pop back in, that, oh my goodness, I forgot to call so and so.
Mm.
Just surrender to it and allow
Mhm.
yourself to be there, right? And just allow yourself to be in the moment. has been the most powerful gift. So yes, I love that. I love sitting silent and just listen to what he has to tell you. It's so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Carol. Thank you. Carol wrote for us that she's working on surrender and that this is really inspirational to get to that place, right? Because we all do have a lot of stories that we carry with us, a lot of baggage. Not baggage in a bad way. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but just think about everything that we hold on to and how heavy that must be. So if you're going on a trip, right, and you have all those bags, how heavy is that? And how can you enjoy the journey if you're going through the airport with, with your backpack, with another bag, right? How can we enjoy that journey if we're carrying it all with us? And that's part of the surrendering and the joy is letting go of that baggage. It's okay. It's okay. It happened. And now let's move on from it and forgiving. So,
And the biggest thing is a script in your head too, right? So thinking about like what your script was as a kid or growing up, and then also don't let other people's moods affect you, right? So that's a
right.
huge one. That's a huge one too.
That's huge, right, Diane?
Yeah.
Yes. Reacting, right? Like reacting towards other people's comments or behavior. If someone's not in a good mood, it's not your story. It's, instantly we think of, what did I do? Or
Right.
why is this happening to me? Right?
Or feeling like you have to fix it because you're the wife or a mom, or feeling like this is my thing to fix, but it isn't. It really isn't.
Mm-mm.
And that's hard to see,
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so true, is when we wear many, many hats that we do wear. And when we get up in the morning and we feel like we're jumping right on that hamster wheel and we just get on before we even have any opportunity to fix anything, right? Like we just get on. And I often, I told this little story before, how I woke up one morning and I got in my car and I looked down and I was driving to work and I wasn't wearing my skirt. I was going to work with just a slip on. Okay. That was back in the 90s when I was living in circumstances, right? I got up, I got on the hamster wheel, I dealt with whatever was going on, and I walked out of the house and I'm driving down the road and I look down, I'm like, oh no. So at that point, it's like, what do I do? Do I go back and be late for work? Do I go in and think, this is a new fashion statement, see if I could get away with that? Or do I go into work and say, well, you know how my life is, right? So how are we going to handle those?
But then you noticed it on the way there, right?
Tell me about it. And that was back in the day when you had to wear a skirt and you had to wear pantyhose and you had to wear heels to work. We could not wear slacks. That was in the office. So, I mean, it felt like I had a skirt on because I had my slip on, but it probably would have not been the most appropriate thing to walk into the office with. So those circumstances are crazy, how they could take control over us when we just get up. So spending in moments and having some sort of morning routine to help you move forward. Even like I always say 3 10-minute slots, just to fill it with 3 10-minute things that are going to help you stay in the moment of contentment and joy and peace throughout the day. That's going to anchor you to move forward. Okay. So take your words and post them someplace that you could remember them. Put them in a heart. Do something with them that is really going to drive moving forward. And know that we're all here as a community to help each other. So if there's any time that we want to jump on community calls like this, reach out, Pam, can you put one together? I'm feeling it. And we'll talk through how that would work. Okay. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to help us move forward together. We're not alone. Okay. We're not alone. I thank everybody for being here. Most of you know me, been around for a long time with me, right? And what I do is productivity and leadership coaching for women to really help them find their joy, banish the fatigue of the pandemic, right? All of that work and bringing people together like this in a community is so important to me. So thank you for coming today.
Thank
Is
you,
there
Pam.
anything else anybody wants to share before we jump off? We feeling good? Do we got hearts? We're feeling good? Awesome. Awesome. Beautiful.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you. Have a dynamite day with purpose, guys. Dynamite day. And
Yes.
thank you again.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
everybody.